all-out show. It's the Wrestling Underground. Get into your mother's basements. Hide your cats and dogs. Get into your bomb shelters. It's time to talk wrestling. Ruh-roh. Marcus, I feel like you and I are going to be in a weird kind of little minority here. I'm seeing a lot of people praising WrestleMania, and I'm just kind of sitting here going, did we watch the same things?
I have stuff to praise that was on WrestleMania, but
Sure.
overall, whole show, I think a lot of leniency, like we talked about with the whole Marvel thing, a lot of leniency is passed because they're so used to a consistent level of monotony that anything that deviates is like, oh Lord, they done reinvented bread, Jesus.
I like how we went old Southern black person on that one. I appreciate that. We're going to put that in the character catalog right next to your IWC nerd character. So, you and I have been uncharacteristically soft on the WWE for the last few weeks because we understand that there's bigger issues. The COVID-19 is apparently now able to jump into cats. That's horrifying. Great. So it's one of those things where there's a lot of bigger issues to worry about than just the wrestling. Well, I've tapped my leeway. You know, after a certain point, you know when something's going to work and when something's not. And when something's not going to work, you need to decide, okay, best let this dog lie. WrestleMania never should have happened. Pro wrestling without an audience can work on rare occasions when it is done as the alternative and not the expected. An empty arena match on a show full of people, that can work. You know, Young Bucks MCMG 2011 or 2010, I think. Sting and Angle 2009. Tim Storm Josephus 2018 NWA. All worked. An entire show, Marcus, did not. Although I did like the 2 nights. I'm down with the 2 nights.
Yeah, that is a good idea considering the fact that a lot of times they just try to bum rush matches on these shows anyway at the last minute. So I think the 2 nights is. I mean, I think it's a necessity for how long these shows are. Now I don't know. I think that probably work out too in terms of for the attendees, right? Like I mean, obviously that's easy to say because we not showing up to that, but for the attendees, I wonder how that'll go because you know that whole WrestleMania weekend tends to be like a maybe 4 or 5 type of deal thing, depending on what all they there for.
Well, I kind of had an idea. If you want to get real ballsy there, WWE, if you're going to do WrestleMania over 2 nights, why not do WrestleMania over 2 cities? Like, how awesome would that be as a fan? You find out night 1's in Orlando, and you're like, "Mrr." Then you find out night 2's in Des Moines, Iowa, and you're like, ooh, I live in Des Moines. I can go to night 2. And it's not like you can't make buku bucks off that. You know, 3.5, 4-hour shows. You can still charge full price tickets. You're going to be selling the pay-per-views now for $60 a pop, so you're going to sell each night for, like, what, maybe 40 just to be, like, nice about it. But, I don't know. That could be cool. But, you know, it also opens up the idea of like, multiple opportunities to do WrestleMania weekends. Like, hey, maybe you don't want to be in a city full of, like, 60,000 wrestling dorks. Maybe you want to do it in, like, Des Moines or in Orlando. And you're going to divide up, you know, which talent goes. Like, that would be cool. Like, there's a lot of possibilities that come with that. I don't know if they'll ever do
I
it,
can see.
though.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that. I mean, in their mind, that'd probably be such a stretch, not only for the crew but financially, because then you'd have to fully WrestleMania stock 2 buildings, with all the trappings and you know pomp and circumstance or what have you. And I'm pretty sure those crews already be stretched to capacity. Not to mention how much those stages in general cost them.
I would do a Royal Rumble setup. Like, very toned down, very UFC-esque. You give it a little bit of a hoopla with, like, accoutrements, but for the most part, you wouldn't have the football-long walkway anymore. At least the ramp. You know, I would definitely tone down on the visual concepts as well to save money on that idea. But you're right. You know, you nailed a lot of the logistical issues. You know, you have a lot of money going into one facility, so it makes sense to do it that way. But the idea is that you would offset the cost of having to bring in extra laborers with the set of having an entire different set of income coming in. Because a lot of times when you do like 2-night events, like stadiums or arenas will sell discounted 2-for-1 tickets. You know, like with Impact, we were going to go, me and Swish were going to that Columbus show before I got canceled. It was 1 ticket for $20 or 2 for $30. So the incentive is to buy both nights. And I would imagine WrestleMania would have similar deals. So this would give you fresh income. But, you know, you're not wrong on your logistical nightmare issue because that would not be fun. Speaking of not fun, WrestleMania was rough. I don't know if it's because there's a lack of an audience, or if the talent really just isn't that good, and we've debated that one for eons at this point, or if it's just not the right time to have it. Like, I don't know what it is, but none of this really landed with me.
I think what the lack of audience did was really strip down what was worthy of actually being on WrestleMania, wasn't. Because that audience can pad a. Oftentimes we've seen WWE, you know, because of how many the pay-per-views they do back to back, or network specials, if you will, and how they just throw stuff together. That a lot of times, you know, it's undersell, over deliver. The feuds, these characters and storylines are undersold, and the superstars have to over deliver what they do in the ring. But now it's like, you know, kind of no room for doubt, like freaking Baron Corbin and Elias and Drew Gulak and stuff, and Daniel Bryan. All that stuff is whatever, but for the most part, these were Raw, SmackDown X matches, and barely deserve to be on those shows, and they suck. So, you know, when you really get down to it, bare bones it, this was a Mania that was a 5-6 show match at best, and I think I'm stretching it by saying 6. So
I kind of like the idea of Raw branded WrestleMania and SmackDown branded WrestleMania. I'm a weird broken boy, though.
Oh, you really stretching the suck right there, huh?
Well, like if you actually called up the NXT talent, you could fill out an 8-card show. Hopefully. No more pesky free shows, that's for sure. As far as let's tackle night one. I didn't see Cesaro Gulak, although I heard good things. At this point with Cesaro, I'm just like, all right, yeah, cool. You're the guy that always does the wrestle, but you're not the dude that makes the moments. Why do I care anymore? Go away. Retire.
Yeah.
It was one of those things, Marcus, when he first came on, like, what was it, 2011?
Yeah, he was he was great. I mean, he didn't talk much. He kind of just let his actions do it. He even had a great theme song, and over time he just deteriorated.
Well, I don't think he deteriorated in a wrestling sense, although as a personality and a persona and as a marketable asset, yes, he did.
Yeah,
I think
I mean, yeah.
I think as an individual, what happens is Cesaro got exposed as the company continued to transition away from the, Playboy panty pillow fight matches, miss those, and the less John Laurinaitis recruited main event talent, as those kinds of guys fell aside, and other great workers got signed to the company. Cesaro got exposed real fast for being a one-trick pony. He's not charismatic. He can't carry a promo. He's not an interesting individual. He has no personality. He's a nice guy. Like, generally, everyone I've ever talked to, they praise Cesaro for being a good dude. I love that. And if I'm Ring of Honor or if I'm New Japan America, I go get someone like Cesaro for my roster. But when you look at the WWE roster, Cesaro is a dime a dozen talent. He's not even the most charismatic dude in his pre-show match with Drew Gulak. And Drew Gulak's as exciting as a stone. Sitting there for 400 years. So, like, Cesaro, what's the purpose anymore? Ask for your release and maybe you'll rejuvenate your career elsewhere. Because at this point, you're not doing much in the WWE besides just being someone's hand-me-down.
I mean, that's an interesting take. I mean, I think for the most part, like you said, he didn't have exactly a wide plethora in terms of, being a multi-tool player like somebody like The Rock. I mean, but we already know that, somebody like The Rock doesn't come along really in every decade or whatever. So I feel like what ended up happening is they probably didn't let him play enough to his strengths. Like, I feel like over time, the way that they just watered down the talent in terms of their perception on TV kind of just, it got to the point where he was a certain breed. Like, because he came in at a time where, not at the time, but he was a guy that didn't even wear knee pads.
Yeah, he had those thigh tapings.
Yeah, and that speaks to the type of mentality and wrestler that he, is and was trying to be back then. But over time, he was like the best kept, well, not even the best kept, he was the best thing going in terms of a lot of his in-ring stuff. But outside of the U.S. Championship and maybe some other stuff, they just never let the guy go because obviously with Vince, you have to have a certain thing you can do or not be able to do or speak a certain way, or he just doesn't see any point in you except to fill a spot. So, I think over time it just, became easy for him to just go along with whatever they gave him. And as a result, he now is like the best kept secret that nobody cares to know anymore, sadly enough. So, like you said, I think if, somebody like New Japan can't call, I think he worked brilliantly there. But yeah, just at this point, he's just another one of those guys. I mean, you like to see him, and he can pop off in a place like NXT, but it's been so long, like a Dolph, you don't even care that he's probably one of the most talented guys on the roster anymore. So,
and I think part of the problem with that also is that they do it to themselves. And as a fan, you look at what's happening, and you generally have that mentality of you're doing this to yourself. Why do I care? At a certain point, if you really want and expect more as a performer and you want more as a wrestler and you want to have more opportunity, you need to make a decision on what's more important to you. So to me, I see Cesaro re-signing his contract whenever it comes due. He's clearly content with never being utilized. So why the hell should I care anymore? He's done this to himself.
Can't be wrong with that.
And that's how I feel about Ziggler, too, by the way.
Yeah, he's been accepted that money. That money. We all know what that money is.
Oh, Ziggler's a whore. Let's not even beat around the bush. Ziggler's a big ol' whore. If you were to scream into his whore mouth, it would be the Grand Canyon of Echoes, because he's such a big whore. I'm not going to make a segue. Just moving on. Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross defeated the Kabuki Warriors. There's conversations around Kairi Sane possibly going back to, not Ice Ribbon, Stardom.
Doesn't need to be a conversation. It needs to be a thing. It needs to happen.
I think part of the problem is a lot of the shine for a lot of people is quickly fading from the WWE mystique. There's always going to be a group of hungry guys who weren't getting a lot of love who will jump at a contract. You think of a Donovan Dijak or a Sam Shaw, guys who were kind of, they were on the indie scene, maybe making a living, but they weren't making waves. When the WWE comes calling, all of a sudden they jump at the opportunity. And I don't mind that because that gives them an opportunity to really build their brand with a bigger audience and possibly leave better off than they were before. But then there are people like Kairi Sane who came in with all the hoopla in the world, who could have signed anywhere she wanted, and now she signed with the WWE and basically found out that it's not the place she should have been. And I don't blame her at all if she wants to leave. Shinsuke Nakamura, by all accounts, was very unhappy with his run with the WWE, but he moved his family to Florida and he didn't want to move him back because that's too much pressure. That's too much to ask on kids, on his wife. Nakamura's a good family man. He's prioritizing his family over being a main eventer in New Japan. So I appreciate that as a man-to-man kind of situation. But there's a lot of this luster, the sheen is off the WWE, and there's a lot of people now reevaluating whether they want to join this company, and I don't blame them.
Yeah, I mean, you 100% right. I mean, Io is not 100% there yet, but unfortunately, she's with Asuka, and she's at that point like Nakamura, who the thrill is gone in terms of the perception with those. We know that they are some of the meanest, roughest people you want to get in that ring with, and to see where Asuka was and where she is now, it's sad. But she was another person who not only ran into the main roster's creator, but she ran into their favorite luster killer for the women in Charlotte. So that happened. And God bless them. They tried to bring a little bit of relevance to those tag titles, but those tag titles that we talked about, they're beneath the 24/7 title, because at least the 24/7 title is living up to what it's supposed to be for.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost pointless to even do that. I mean, I know, but who cares about Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross? They're probably having the time of their lives. Unfortunately, it's some of the crappiest stuff to watch, and there's nobody for them to compete against. So what are they even doing? Like, how many times did they even defend those titles? I'm talking Asuka and Io. So it's like they're really
Kyrie?
wasting. Yeah, Kyrie and
Asuka.
yeah, Kyrie and Asuka. Yeah. It's crazy talking about Io. It's like, how long before she's in that pile with Asuka and Kyrie and Nakamura? But again, it's kind of goes to your point. Like, it's crazy, like, having that consistent comfort from a financial cushion that company creates for a lot of people. It just, I mean, I was listening to like a snippet of Luke Harper on Talk is Jericho, and he was like, "Look, man, he ran. I mean, he was done. He was done. It was over. Like, he consistently just got railroaded in terms of creative, and he knew it, and he was done. And I think he said they gave him contracts, handed him contracts up to his last day, and he was like, it was more money than he could have even thought he could make in 10 lifetimes. And I'm like, well, something to that degree. And it's like, he really sat there and thought about it, like, wait a minute, am I making the wrong decision for my family right now? But if he's saying that and he left, imagine what the people, concocted in their head that stayed. So, those zeros will change your entire perception of how you view yourself. So,
Yeah, I agree. When you get presented with an opportunity for a lot of money, you're really going to find out who you are and what you're about. I think anyone who worries about their family, like, unless you're hundreds and millions of dollars in debt, or like you got a kid with a lot of medical issues or something to that effect, every partner worth their salt in this world will tell you, I'd rather you be happy and us have to manage our budget a little bit more than have more money but you be miserable. And I think someone like Luke Harper, who turned down buku bucks to be happy, is the kind of guy as a fan you want to support, because he's prioritizing being a fan of the industry over being soft and doughy, because he just got fat and lazy milking that WWE Golden Teat. As far as the Women's Tag Team Championships goes, I picked Bliss and Cross to win. I'm glad Bliss and Cross to win. I can speak. I wrote 7,000 words today, or actually over the last 2 days, so like my brain no work funny. But Bliss and Cross, I think, were the right choices to win this, because it's just to shake things up. And Bliss, to me, is kind of one of those tentpole wrestlers you build a division around. You always want them around a title or near a title or with a title. And I know Bliss isn't, the top dog in terms of talent, but she's the best personality in the division. She's actually enjoyable to listen to, and when given good material and not just the same schlup that she's been getting over the last year, she's one of the better promos in the WWE. So I think this is the right opportunity to go with. They just need to actually be given something to do, which probably won't happen.
Yeah, like wishful thinking, right? Yeah, but I mean, yeah, you're right. I mean, we've always praised Bliss's presentation in terms of a character. Like, I still remember when she was coming out on NXT as basically the glitter girl, You know, and to see her evolve the way she has into, a heel specifically, with her small stature and wasn't basically having to, do more with less from a certain perspective. She does thrive at that, but again, it's like it's what you're given. If you're given shit and you can't make soup out of it, then it's gonna come out like it's been coming out. And Nikki, again, she's probably doing the best, making the best out of what she's got too, and bringing out more of a personality. But I just feel like she just thrived better when she was that crazed character that was associated with what was the name of EY's gang? God, speaking of obscurity.
Forgotten TNA Wrestlers Part 2.
Boom. That's what we're going for.
Next up, we got Elias versus King Corbin. Elias won. It was bad.
Yep, moving on.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Speaking of bad, Becky Lynch defeated Shayna Baszler in one of the worst matches I've seen in some time. I don't know who's at fault in this. I've never been a big Becky Lynch fan, and I've been saying it time and time and time again. She's not a good worker. In fact, her whole come to Jesus moment was her getting her ass whooped. Nia Jax broke her face. Like, think about all the times someone ascended to the level. You know, Bret Hart beats Ric Flair. The Rock, runs the train on Mankind at Royal Rumble 1999. You got Stone Cold's, a lot of people say the 316 speech, that's not really what it was. It was more the continual feud with Vince McMahon in 97, and it was built up to the crescendo. But think about that. Like Stone Cold 316 to winning the title, those are two of his 3-4 biggest moments during that run. No one's going to sit here and go, yeah, I knew Stone Cold was a star when he broke his neck. No one said that. But Becky Lynch breaks her nose. Oh, she's a star. Like, you guys really... And again, this is wanna-like-yitis. We want to like you. We want to like you, Becky. And WWE fans, like the diehards, they'll clomb on to any reason. How do I know this? Because I do the same thing, but I call it out. I want to like you, Chad Gable, but you ain't giving me nothing to like. I want to like you, Uha. I forget his WWE name. Apollo Crews. I want to like you, but I don't.
Yeah, we know because we know what is behind the suck. With Becky, kind of like you in a lot of ways, maybe not to that extent. I've always appreciated moments of the character, but not necessarily her as an in-ring. She's just never really done anything that's made me like I won't go out of my way to watch a Becky Lynch match. Like I think one of the better ones she's had in the last few years or so was the match she had with Sasha, but that was padded in a lot of ways by the no DQ and like the weaponry stipulation of that Hell in a Cell match.
Well, and Sasha's the better worker. She's phenomenal.
Boom. Yeah. So, but moments like, the lead up to her basically being like the ultimate underdog with her having that little winning streak on SmackDown, slowly creeping up under the radar and then, becoming the first champion. That was cool. And then also we know everything that's happened up to her being with the man and all that. But she just never really done that for me in the ring like a Sasha or, just others. So, you put on top of that the fact that they really felt like they went out their way to make her just obnoxiously annoying at times. And it doesn't help when you bring in somebody like Shayna, who's a breath of fresh air, and they don't pull the trigger because I think they're more obsessed with running back
Becky Ronda,
yeah, like they in a way, obviously they didn't get to do the solo match, but in a lot of ways they want to run that back like twice in a lifetime, like they did with Cena and Rock. So,
Do you think that's the plan for SummerSlam, Becky Ronda?
If Ronda doesn't come up pregnant, probably.
So, I think for me, part of the problem is Becky, just as a competitor, has no athleticism. She's not very athletic at all. Another problem I have is her promos. Her Irish accent is so thick that it makes her unintelligible. She's probably a very smart, intelligent person, but every time she talks, I'm like, spit out the marbles, lady. To be fair, I also don't like Drew McIntyre's accent, so it's not like I'm being gendered here. I'm just being super xenophobic.
Yeah, I mean, see, people 100% transparent. Most other a-holes that you like to call a-holes would never point that out.
No. It has
Uh,
nothing to do with you being a gender. It has to do with the fact that I don't like your accent, you limey.
but it does also feel like accents have always been one of those things where you're like all in on and not at all.
Well, I think part of the problem is, I'm jesting when I say I'm being xenophobic because I'm not, which I don't even think is the right word. But I think for me, it's kind of like the idea, like I put so much stock in auditory sensations. I've mentioned this before, of a sexy voice, beautiful singing, pleasant sounds. I vibe so hard with that. So naturally, as someone who really kind of tingles with the right kind of auditory stimulation, I'm going to be put off by certain really abrasive tones and notes, and the British UK Isle accents hit my ear the wrong way. Like German, Italian, Spanish, African, Japanese, all fine. But for some reason, that British Isle grinds my gears. Like whenever I listen to Jax Teller, I'm like, yeah, I like him. Whenever I listen to what's his actual name? Plays Jax Teller, Sons of Anarchy.
Oh, you talking about freaking oh Jesus, what is the kid's name?
Yeah, him.
Oh yeah, freaking I'm like, damn it, he played Arthur. What is your name, kid?
I want to call him Nanny McPhee. That's not right. But anyway, the actor who plays him has a pretty stark Irish accent, or not Irish, British accent. I think he's Scottish.
Yeah, Charlie Hunnam. Yeah.
Yeah, Charlie Hunnam. There it is. Nanny McPhee. So like every time he speaks, I'm just like, God. Like Christian Bale's American voice, cool. Christian Bale's British voice, Now like Australians on the other hand, love it. Dude, you want to see how I get jacked up? Like you want to see like me like do the coyote in the Warner Brothers cartoons with the eyes and the foot now. Show me a beautiful Australian with that accent. It's bad.
Yeah.
My heart pops out of my eyes. Everyone's freaking out because my heart's dangling from an eye socket.
The mask featuring Chad Porter.
So like when it comes to Becky, like as a wrestler, she's average at best. There's nothing about her that I think stands out. She's not bad. But when you're the face of a company, you got to be one of three things. You got to be extremely marketable. You got to be super over, which are kind of, hand in hand. You got to be a good promoter. You got to be a good talker, and you got to be a great athlete. Becky's one of them. She's super marketable. People like her. But she fails on the other two ends of the spectrum, and you need to have a second option to be reliable. Like, Triple H was never all that marketable, but he was super talented in the ring, and he could cut a promo. So, like, he was always on the what I call the B-tier spectrum of draws. Like, you were never going to put him over Rock or Austin or John Cena. But if one of those three guys weren't there, yeah, Triple H makes for a fine replacement. But as far as Becky Lynch goes, I've always thought that she's more market machine than she is natural existence. She had that run in 2017 with that broken face, 2018, but that's it. Baszler should have won here because I think the money match should have been Baszler versus Rousey. Yeah, I don't know if that would have been any good. I won't lie, Baszler doesn't impress me much. But the idea of like Rousey coming back and like having Baszler's, I don't like repeating words, but having Baszler's back in essence, and like I have your back, buddy, when we're gonna rule the WWE as father and son, like Vader and Luke should have. That would have been really cool, and then like have Baszler start to like become paranoid, or maybe have like Alexa Bliss kind of get in her ear and start like taunting her, like, oh, she's going to eventually come and, go for your belt. Like, you need to watch out for Ronda, Baszler. Like, she's coming. She's going to get you. And that would have been, like, a great kind of, like, eventual heel turn for Baszler to kind of snap and go after Rousey, setting up a SummerSlam match. But, that would have been a good idea.
Yeah, or even have like it gets to a point where Becky's trying to get it back off Basley and she just can't do it, and she's defeated a second time, and then we get Ronda coming back, and they come face to face and look like they might something might pop off in between the two of them, and then Ronda just snaps and goes after Becky. Obviously, still got some tension there, and then slowly but surely, weeks leading up to it, and they do the thing where they want to put them together at first, but then slowly but surely stuff happen, tag matches happen, and then one of the weeks we just see Ronda doing that reluctant handoff to a best friend with a title. And she's looking at it, you know how they do it.
Kind of do like
And
a Rousey heel turn.
yeah, yeah, that will be the Rousey heel turn because in her mind, I guess you could chunk it up like she didn't lose it in a straight up and down match, which is why she came back and beat the piss out of Becky. And you could prolong a little bit of their feud because they never really got to go one on one the way it was supposed to be because again, Charlotte has to be in every damn thing. So you could do that out, and then when she gets her out the way, she goes after the title. She feels like she never properly lost, if you will, whatever logic they want to concoct, and do it like that. Like I said, at this point, it feels like there was a point where Becky was being badass, but now it just feels like she's constantly just telling me she's badass instead of showing it. Whereas Ronda and Shayna just show it all the time because naturally, coming from where they come from, that's all they had to do. So.
True. Did Becky pin Charlotte at WrestleMania when she won the belt? Do you remember?
I think she pinned. I want to say it was that she did. She pinned Ronda. But the whole thing was, but she did make a tap, which was I guess a thing. I think. Don't quote me on that, but I think she did pin her. Let's see.
Well, while you look that up, I'm going to move on to the next part. Sami Zayn defeated Daniel Bryan. I don't know why the WWE isn't sitting Daniel Bryan down and going, you are arguably one of the three greatest in-ring technicians that we've seen in the modern era, probably of all time, possibly of all time. There's literally zero reason for you to ever dive to the ringside area ever again. Because it was a nasty slide. It was against the hard camera. Like the hard camera was facing the ring and the entrance. So to the right of the hard camera, in where the front row of the television side of things would be, like where you see all the people who paid hundreds and thousands of dollars to sit in those seats. He hits Zayn, but he hits him and he has to bend his body as he smacks into the rail, into the guardrail, and it almost looked like he hit his lower neck and his upper shoulders against it first. And seeing that, I'm just like, what even in the hell is going on with? Where is his wife to say that's a dumb idea? Don't do the dumb idea. Because he's absolutely just doesn't need to be doing this shit.
Yeah, you're right. And yeah, she pinned Ronda.
Okay.
And apparently, I think like a botchy-esque finish, which is.
I mean, typical Becky.
Yeah.
Becky botch. Becky to botch. Nailed it.
Too botch. I always get something in the place of those belts, but yeah, you hate to see it. Anytime he gets a German or bad anything landing around his neck or his head, and you just cringe because it don't take much. I saw somebody say yesterday, and obviously we'll get to it, but they was looking at what happened with that Boneyard match. It was like there's absolutely no way that they couldn't pull off, bringing back the Stinger now. And I was like, I don't know, even as beat up as Take is, he can fall a lot. I don't know if Sting can. And if he can, it's gonna look weird because he's gonna try to fall on his rear instead of his take flat bumps on actual ground because you just don't know because we don't know what the X-rays look like. He might be mere inches away, one bad fall or one bad sleeping position away from paralysis. We don't know.
Very true. It might be a situation like Edge where Sting's neck injury is too painful because apparently that was part of the issue with Edge's retirement was that he just couldn't get past the pain. Because like he had mentioned like, and then one day after the second surgery, I woke up and I didn't have any pain. And I started thinking, hey, I can come back. So,
Yeah.
it's a very sticky wicket with that, and I'm gonna have some opinions on the Boneyard match that might be controversial,
Oh, I'm looking forward
or
to it.
maybe
I saw you
not. I don't
tweet.
know.
Oh,
It's
you
me.
tweet. I'm like,
So.
oh, he died a little inside.
I died a lot inside, man. And oh man, there's so much to get to. Sane wins with a haluva kick, with Bryan coming off the top rope. If you would put Drew Gulak in all the Bryan spots, I would have enjoyed the hell out of this match. I really would have. But I cringe whenever I see Bryan take big bumps onto his head and neck because I just see that as unnecessary for someone who can tell an entire story like Will Ospreay without ever leaving his feet. So like I get cringed out and I can't enjoy it, so I don't. It's a very hard match for me to watch because I genuinely care about this man's health. And I'm not saying that like other people don't, but like I can't detach from that worrisome mentality with certain wrestlers I'm fans of. So I hope Sting never comes back. I love him. I love him too much because there was a time when he came back in '06 and he had that run where he was happy, he was healthy, there wasn't any issues, he was taking care of himself. But as soon as you tell me he's got a neck injury, I love him. I love him to death. I hope to one day meet him. I don't need to see him ever wrestle again. I got my second chance with him for over a decade in TNA. So or for nearly a decade in TNA. So we're good.
You're like, no chance, it doesn't count.
Oh, it sure as fuck does, IWC. We got to come up with a name. Irvin Winston Charleston. The most hoity-toity of names. I'll let you name your own characters. I will say this. The next match, Morrison wins, retains the belt, which I think was the right move. I don't like the idea of tag titles being on the line in singles matches. It's like, that was dumb. But also, I don't like the idea of Miz and Morrison losing their belts without some kind of big kind of passing of the torch. And neither I was going to say the Kingstons. Neither the New Day or the Usos need that passing. Although, that being said, if this was just kind of like a video game match, oh, it would have been great. I mean, it was great. I'm not even going to sit here and dog it. I wouldn't say it was anything special. I've seen ladder matches just like this, but the shit Kofi did with like that one spot where like he slid himself through the ladder and like nailed Morrison and Jimmy, and they both grabbed him and threw him. Like, that was cool as hell, man. I like that. But I also kind of got to remember, like, this is one of those matches where it's all about the spots. Apologies, in advance, but this is a spot monkey match. And when I think about Kofi and Morrison specifically, when we think of their bigger WWE moments, we think of their Royal Rumble moments. Both Morrison and Kofi became very synonymous with their big, death-defying, not touching the ground. Like Morrison spider-monkeyed the wall, tight-roped the barrier and jumped down onto the stairs. Kofi kind of bounced on a chair once instead of just sliding it with his foot.
Yeah, and then did that thing where he almost missed this, but he like jumped out and then did the thing where he allowed the heels of his feet to catch the steps that year.
Oh, that one was really good, actually.
Yeah.
Because that one was really good. But, like, for the most part, no one's going to sit and go, Royal Rumble 2000 whatever. That Morrison spot made it the best match of all time. Best match on the No, we don't think that. Because we know the Royal Rumble is a spot match. And that's all WWE ladder matches. It's just spots. There's very rarely any stories anymore. So it was one of those things where I can appreciate the athleticism, and I think it was really, really grand. But I'll never rewatch it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the best compliment that I can follow up on that I heard was you couldn't tell these three men that they wasn't performing in front of 80,000 people.
That's true. They went balls to the walls. There was a lot. And I'll say this. I don't think there was anyone on these two nights that didn't. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's real easy. And I'm probably, case in point, top number one item on that. When I was, playing football, if we played I used to sneak around some of the rules and would play JV and varsity just because I didn't give a fuck. I'll play 8 quarters in 2 days. Fuck off. But, with the varsity games, we would have 5, 6, 7, 800 people watching. Real jacked up, get you amped. JV games, there's like 14 people and 12 of them are working the game. And you're just like, wow, there's no energy here. So I'm not saying I dogged it, but there is a noticeable difference. And sometimes when you have that energy behind you, it really makes a big difference. So I have to imagine that, a lot of these wrestlers used to be competitive athletes, beyond just pro wrestling. So, I would imagine when you have the opportunity to have 80,000 people chanting your name and you lose that in an instant.
Yeah, it contributes. It contributes to the energy.
Oh yeah, it could be a big daunting deflation without those people. So I get it. Morrison wins, which I think was the right move. You picked the Usos to win, if I remember correctly.
Let's see, who did I pick? I think I might have picked the Usos. Might have thought what? I'd have to go back. I know definitively one win that I got in there actually. Not only did I get the right victor, I got the right finish, which we'll get to. But either way, like you said, Morrison won. Like I said, I think these guys did a great service to this show. To me, it was one of the only 3 matches to watch on this show. Like you said, balls to the wall, gave their bodies. I can understand why they didn't do the teams because I mean, you got the number mandate for how many people can be around, and if it's unnecessary, that might have been an unnecessary amount of bodies and endangering it too much. So this was cool for what they what they had to be confined to, and I think they picked the right 3 guys for it. Yeah, but it was crazy. Like I feel like John hit the best Starship Pain we've seen in years.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
It was like wow, maybe he should start just doing it like that from now on. But yeah, it was just some really good stuff. Like kudos to them. I don't know if they concocted the match or I want to imagine they did because it don't take a genius. I mean, these guys are used to being in those scenarios, specifically Kofi and Morrison. So. But yeah, it was some good stuff, and they did this thing where knocked Morrison off the ladder, and he went down with both straps. So it was a cool finish that could leave the door open potentially down the line for something else. Although that would be repetitive as hell. Let's be honest, they don't have much else left up their sleeve when it comes to these tag teams. So I think the right guys won it. So
I agree. Owens and Rollins was a match that everyone said was good. These are literally 2 of my least favorite human beings in all of wrestling. If you would like to comment on this match, I will give you your opportunity, but I have nothing to say about this match.
I kind of stopped caring about this feud once Joe went down, to be honest.
Fair.
And they really hasn't done much. I mean, God bless Kevin Owens and stuff. I was pleasantly surprised this wasn't, a 100% bad match, and then, that whole thing diving off the WrestleMania sign is definitely a mania moment for him. But this wasn't nothing too special. This could have main evented Raw with a solid amount of time. But I'm just kind of glad they actually went on here with the match in terms of, because at first they had a crap finish and then did it at DQ. So I thought that was cool, and the right guy won. So that's it.
Next up, we got Braun versus Goldberg. I thought that not only was this the wrong match to do, like someone suggested Jeff Hardy Goldberg. I'm just like,
what?
Yeah, that would have been a good idea. Because at least no, go on.
Jeff Hardy was Goldberg Spears. I don't want to see a Jeff Hardy X-Ray, but I'm pretty sure Goldberg wouldn't be good for it.
To be fair, there is the loose possibility that Goldberg hits Jeff Hardy so hard that it realigns all of his bones.
Oh my God, such a missed opportunity. God damn it, they should have made this whole show cinematic. He could have spared him in the Willow.
Oh! Oh, God. This was bad, and I'm a Goldberg fan, and this was bad. I really don't know what the point of this was. Braun Strowman's not... He's the worst person. Swear to God, besides defrosting an actual Nazi Superman and putting the WWE Championship on him, I cannot think of a worse person to hold the belt besides Randy Orton than Braun Strowman.
It's like if they would, wait a minute, what if they would have brought out Seth X?
Well, Marcus, she's not a Nazi. She just collects Nazi paraphernalia.
She's interning.
She's interning. Braun Strowman's very unlikable these days. He makes himself unlikable. He's not any good. Braun Strowman's terrible. But you kind of accept that because what he can do in the ring is so unique, you still want to see it. He's a spectacle, just like Goldberg. So I get it. But on the other hand, fuck you, Braun. I don't like you. You're terrible.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. First of all, I remember going back to that story because I never had anything against the guy. It's always cool to see somebody that big do some of the stuff that he's done. But at this point, all he is that guy that runs around the ring in a very non-impressive choo-choo train type of deal because he's not going full speed when he hits these people because he'd kill them.
Maybe he is. Maybe he is. Maybe he's just super fucking slow.
Yeah, you might be right on that. But yeah, I'm not even impressed by that anymore. He's not even like Lance Archer could have like the flu, and I would still rather watch him to do anything more than Braun. Anybody that I think has seen Lance Archer in the past however many years would agree. I mean, he's just far more impressive and more dynamic guy from not only in ring but a character perspective. But yeah, I'm over Braun. I like Goldberg as well, but I know he's limited in terms of what he can do and what we're gonna get from him, and that's fine because Goldberg's never just even quote Jubble as I like to call him. This man don't get paid by the hour. We've always known that.
Michael.
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 But at this, like you said, the match was 100% trash, and yeah, I mean he just feels like he's just a really big bearded bridge to Roman. So
I think Goldberg really could have rejuvenated his WWE career. Not that he needs to. He's still super fucking over. Fans pop just for everything he does. But if he were to focus on some of his jiu-jitsu and MMA training that he's been doing for the last 15, 20 years and actually incorporate that into his modern style, like that would be very interesting. But granted, that's not what fans want to see. We don't want to see a leg lock for 14 minutes. We want to see Goldberg run through a bitch.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of, it's the chicken or the egg. Which one comes first? Do you want to see him have a better match, or do you want to see him do what we're all here to see him do?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. That to me, this is one of those matches that even if the crowd was there, still would have sucked. But because, like you said, it's that element of we just want to see Goldberg.
Mm-hmm.
It would have that one thing going by it. But that's not even to me even giving it a compliment because this was just poor. This was crap. Again, it's cool, always cool to see Goldberg, but I have 100% no investment in anything Braun Strowman can or will do in the future.
Agreed. Now to the Boneyard Match.
Hey.
Can I just say that anyone who is talking about doing cinematic pro wrestling needs to drown in baking soda? I cannot think of a less desirable pro wrestling motif in the moment than cinematic wrestling experience. That's the dumbest thing and the logical conclusion to how you kill the business. Now, you can like whatever you like. This is a universal message to everyone. If you liked it, that's cool. I thought this was the biggest pile of shit on the show. With one exception. I will always pop for 1, Metallica, and 2, American Badass Undertaker. Every single time. I don't care if James Hetfield's 84 going, exit alert. Because he's inhaling his oxygen. Exit alert. Like, I'm in. I'll watch it. I don't care. So, like, that was great. But everything else was like, goddamn.
I hate when we're not on the same page. It feels like the world is off. But fuck it. Going through Corona right now, everything's off.
Nothing makes sense anymore.
Nothing makes sense. Like we might only be here for however many more months. Who knows?
Right? We might have 4 days. Like, I don't know. I got Rocky 5 on, and I'm talking to you about wrestling, and there's a disease that can now infect cats. Like, the world doesn't make any sense, man. I don't know what to do.
And my good friend got attacked by a freaking peregrine falcon, so the world is on his ass.
I still can't fucking believe that happened. So, like, I get done my 2 miles, and I'm crossing in front of the Catholic Church parking lot. That was the part I left out, because I'm not sure if that's a sign from God or what. And I'm walking out, and I live by a wooded area, so seeing deers are very common. They're so used to seeing people, they don't run away, and they need to, because they got the ticks that make the Lyme disease. So I'm looking at like a little herd of deer, and I'm like, oh, look at that! It's the same couple of deers I saw on the way down to the bike path, and then I see something. I look up. Fucking 2.5, 3 feet above my head is a peregrine falcon with talons out. I'm like, oh, this is a day. I jump back thinking it's going to come for me, but it just keeps gliding. And I'm like, ah! I didn't know what to do. Is it coming back for me?
I'm just, because I saw that on Twitter. I'm like, wait a minute. I didn't see that. I turned in the Booker T. I didn't see that. And then I'm like, wow, he really got attacked by a peregrine. And I know it's real because it's on your personal Twitter.
Right?
That's where he knows real.
Like,
this isn't a gimmick. So that anything you tweet on the Nerdco thing is a gimmick, but sometimes you play. So I'm thinking like, oh my God, I hope he didn't Rickon Stark it. I'm like, zigzag, damn it, zigzag, even though it's over your save. Oh God, I hope he zigzag.
I got home and I'm like, that was a goddamn bird of prey, a flying raptor. What the hell was it? And I looked it up, and apparently, I never knew this, but I thought it was a red-tailed hawk because that was one of the more aware of birds that I remember from my days reading the Animorphs. But I was like, well, let's see what it is. So I looked through the birds of prey in Northeast Ohio, and apparently a peregrine falcon is extremely common with where I live. And I've never seen a peregrine falcon in my life, let alone one 3.5 feet above my head. That was a day, man. Like, I've come across baby black bears before and, like, other weird-ass wild animals, and I'm just like, fuck it. What are you going to do? You're fucking 180 pounds of adorableness. Shut up. But this goddamn thing... I didn't know what to do, man.
It's weird, man, because like a few weeks back, I feel like I told you this. I might have told somebody else that we was coming down the street. I'm like, wait, what the hell is? I'm like, that is a big ass. Oh my God! I'm like, wait a minute, that's a turkey, and I'm like, no, that got to be a buzzard. It got to be a buzzard, because it was clearly eating on some meaty like substance, and it was a big ass grounded bird. And I'm like, well, like this is insane. Clearly it was probably eating on roadkill or something, but that was nuts because I had never seen that. You just, in urban neighborhoods, you really don't get them type of things, to be honest.
Maybe a guy named Buzzard, but not an actual bird.
And then sometimes we refer to bird as severely poorly characteristic females.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that yeah, exactly. Boom, there it is. Yeah, but that's crazy when you run across animals like that, and it's just like then you look it up like, oh no, it wasn't a foe, it's a neighbor. That has to suck.
Well, in my neighborhood, my foes are my neighbors, so like hand in hand, right? So
yeah.
Let's talk
back to
back to the Boneyard. So let me explain why I don't like it, and I think it will kind of make sense. And let me be very clear. at the end of the day, I didn't like the Broken Universe. I didn't like the Bray Wyatt stuff because that's not pro wrestling to me. That's not the stuff I'm here to see. You know, you and I, you know, Arrow's season 5 might be like our A-list, A-tier peak of the best action scenes in all of television, right? If I want to watch a fight scene in a TV, I'm going to go watch guys who train and practice and do choreographed stunt fighting for the purpose of it looking good on a regular basis. So why would I watch The Undertaker throw huge right hooks that don't land? You can tell they don't land. When I could watch instead Arrow season 5 again, right? So that's my first issue. My second issue is we all know that this is bullshit. Like, we know that no one's actually dead. We know that no one's actually, you know, losing titles or winning anything. But we accept it because we accept the reality of the situation. But this felt so disjointed from what we've ever been seeing from the WWE that it almost felt unnatural in a way, because it wasn't like anything we'd ever gotten before from the company, and it just kind of felt so tonally different, not just in the company's history, but specifically on the show. The other big issue I had is that none of it made sense. So yeah, The Undertaker shows up, you know, coming into Metallica, A-tier entrance. But then Carl Anderson and Doc Gallows know how to summon the Druids?
Yeah, they fucking bribed the Druids.
And, like, The Undertaker gets surrounded, and you know, 30 fucking years of him summoning them and dispensing them and coming out of urns and going back into urns and having Paul Bearer and, you know, rising from the ashes and going to the grave. You couldn't convince the Druids not to hit you? What the fuck? And then the Druids went down like bitches.
Anderson must have promised him some sweet Asian activity.
Right? He's like, I got this guy. He's got this girl named Peter. It is a girl. Don't worry about it. She can hook us up. And the Druids are just like, oh yeah.
Damn it, that should have been the segment. That should have been out the segment. Cause now you just do that, but like almost in the vein of that bitch ass favorite scene from Django.
Oh God.
Nice to see. And like what? Get laid. Like, I want to get laid. You're like, so what? So it'll be nice to get laid. Oh yeah.
So okay. Okay, hang on. All right. So the other issue I had came with the ending. I'm fine with the sniveling heel villain, like, but with the way the Undertaker cut his promo and basically said, you know, you only came here when you know there was no challenges left for you, basically implying that he's dirt shit loser boy, right? Then he has AJ Styles groveling, sniveling, and please don't bury me. And Undertaker's just so condescending to him. Like, Marcus, in the history of the buried alive concept in WWE, that has never happened. Now, sure, maybe you had Kane like, no, don't, or Vince McMahon doing it, but to the point where they had definitively lost and you knew they were going to get buried, that never happened. So not only did they metaphorically bury AJ Styles alive as a character, they literally buried AJ Styles alive as a persona. Everything about this match did not serve anyone any good other than to stroke The Undertaker's ego. Styles didn't look good coming out of this. One, because you're asking him to act. Woo! That was hard. And two, like, this was a weak-ass situation to be in. It just, for me, it was all the wrong boxes being checked for why I don't like something. At least with the final deletion and all that stuff with TNA and Impact Wrestling, it served a purpose because it was necessary for the company to have any good buzz. But I am not a fan of cinematic wrestling with Impact, I supported it at the time, and to an extent still a little bit now, because that company needs the good publicity, and it gave it them. But this didn't need that. And when we get to Cena Wyatt,
That's some other shit. That's something else.
so what did you think of the Boneyard match?
I'm on the other side of the fence, and again, it's weird because we usually on the same side of the fence. But
we're still neighbors though, so it's cool.
Exactly. We you can still come get some sugar, buddy.
Oh,
But
thanks, buddy.
but I'm the guy that one of my favorite reasons for loving Batman forever, as much as I do, is because of the dynamic between Two-Face and Riddler.
Yeah,
I appreciate the level of camp that those two took it to, specifically Jim Carrey, as he classically does. So first I came into this match late, and then okay, what is this? But then I went back and watched it from start to finish, and I gotta admit I loved it, because I'm a guy that, depending on the right level of effery, I can surrender to it and kind of turn my brain off. And I think a lot of the reason why I did appreciate it is because of what it did for Taker. Like you said, it was, for the most part, this was 100% catered to Undertaker. And it's weird. I was thinking about, I was like, it's funny when you look at the natural progression of not only this character, through the physical, what has become the physical limitations of the man behind the character. This is probably a few years too late in terms of the execution of a style like this. And I'm like, it's crazy that this feels like what it's always should have been going for this man in terms of transitioning this character out. And it only took a real world global pandemic for them to do it. But in terms of stuff that I liked, I mean, like you said, that entrance will take an epic. I even liked the whole thing of AJ, because again, it's AJ and acting, so bear with him. But like, some of the most fun times to watch, going back to watch classic TNA, is when Styles was with Christian, and that whole thing. And he kind of he just went with it. Like, when Styles can just kind of, he has his moments. And I think this was one of those times where he just 100% surrendered. We know what Styles is capable of. We know what he can do. But he was catering to, no pun intended, the Undertaker here. And like you said, it was a head-scratching thing, because you knew he had more fight left in him by the time he was begging and groveling. But all the stuff between the trash talking, the cursing, which I'm pretty sure half the fan base was freaking immaculating over, just because they don't get to hear it as consistently as they want to on the program. But Styles coming out the coffin with the laugh, I thought was priceless. The Druid thing was weird as hell, because it's like all of a sudden he put a bandana on and they don't F with him no more. like what is that?
It's just blood and Crips, man. Like, come on.
It's like we don't know who you are anymore. But I prefer our idea better, that they bribed those Druids with hot Asian nookie.
They did it all for the nookie. Yeah, the nookie. Yeah.
That they shown that segment, that actually might have been one thing that got you to like this thing.
I would at least like the segment, that's for sure. especially if they went with the oh yeah.
But yeah, I ended up digging it. Like I said, it catered to Taker. The man can't really do. I mean, you go back, if this had to be a real match, standard match, at this point, I would imagine you're not going old school, because he could end up Yambad Yahtzee himself.
Yeah.
He not gonna be doing the leg drop that he does, because as we recently found out, and I don't know if you know this, Chad, but the apron is the hardest part of the ring.
Marcus, are you telling me that the apron is the hardest part of the ring? I know that.
I know. I didn't know how much I needed that information from Michael Cole until like literally a few days ago. But
every time during WrestleMania, Michael Cole's like, Aleister Black got hit on the ring apron. That's the hardest part of the ring.
Oh my God! But yeah, he's not gonna be doing that because that could on the back and all that. And we know for a fact he's damn sure not doing that dive no more. So you take out a lot of key things in the prime of some of his best offense. So like I said, something like this caters to how he is physically now.
Mm-hmm.
On top of the fact that he really is that guy now that is like the old outlaw gunslinger type that's not all the taking souls and digging holes and all that. Like let's move away from that. Like be this guy that this honorary veteran that isn't taking crap off anybody. Don't worry about the streak. Don't worry about all the supernatural stuff. You can do it here and there, like the little bit that they did here, but don't overblow it. And I just think, look, Styles is, I don't want to say he's Teflon at this point because this company's proven they can take that word and mangle it. But, if he's not going to be in the WWE thing because of the schedule and because, obviously he's aging up too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just think he did the man a great service. This 100% catered to Taker. That last part I thought was great with the effects. The hand thing was hilarious. I know that 100% killed you. The hand thing.
So hokey.
So okay. Like I said, I had to imagine like that was like one last sign of fortune. By the way, it was hilarious to see somebody on Twitter legitimately think it was real. Gotta love Twitter. From the most intelligent to the epitome of my brain's just coming in. So yeah, I thought it just worked for what they had to do. And like I said, this feels 3 years too late for this character. We're probably never gonna get it again, depending on how Vince is, because the last thing he wanted to do was go off script the way that this did. So it worked for me. I know very valid reasons for why it didn't work for you, specifically on the confines of we've never really seen that last part when it came to a graveyard match or buried alive match. But it is what it is. I would like for this to be how he rides off into the sunset, but this man has proven that he is stubborn to a fault, mostly even against himself. So we'll see.
Honestly, I think it's it's diabolical. We're all saying the same. You and I are saying the same things, but from different sides. And I think that's a wonderful thing because it's one of those kind of microcosms of America. Like we can both see an orange, but you see slices, I see juice. It's still an orange. And I think that's a wonderful thing. As far as Taker goes, specifically with the American Badass, I actually think this gimmick change could prolong his in-ring career a la Terry Funk, because you're right, he can't do the apron leg drop. He could probably still do old school, but with the landing on his new hips, like I don't know if you want to even risk that. Yeah. But with all that, you can still hit the last ride, still hit the choke slam, and now the punches and kicks make more sense because he's not some diabolical demon dude. So
yeah,
he could do like 8, 9, 10, 12-minute brawls with the right guys more often in a year. And I think that could be a lot of fun to see, because that was my favorite Taker. Because before, Taker would always just do that big, prolonged, bounting right hook. And it's like, and it's like, no one would throw a punch like that. But then you get American Badass, and he's working the body bag with you. And it made a lot more sense, and he was a lot more physical, he was a lot more creative, a lot more dynamic as a character. I never liked the Dead Man. I never liked, Ministry of Darkness or post 2004 Undertaker. That was never the cat for me. But this dude, American ABA, American Badass, love it. So give him another fucking title run at this point. I don't care.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like they melded the best of both. Like he had the supernatural vibes, but it wasn't over camp or whatever. But it was a lot of American Badass and just probably just the dude that he naturally is. I think we talked about this before. Like I would pay good money to to see what went down when that guy broke into a celebrity's house and realized it was LL Cool J. But if I couldn't see it, like just to sit down with him, like, what was your reaction when you realized you had effed up, like really effed up? And I feel like this version of Taker is the guy who would meet the burglar. So just 100%, just 100% dog walking all across his estate. I would imagine, like, nah, boy, you broke into my house. You wanted this ass whooping.
I'm
So,
s- I'm so
so
I'm so glad you said it like that because one of the best parts of this Taker, the American Badass, is that he calls everyone boy, just out of
yeah.
disrespect. You know, Vince McMahon, you need to listen here, boy. Vince McMahon's like, I'm older than you, and Undertaker's like, are you?
Oh, yeah, just take it going around doing the same thing like that to just a regular Joe Schmo who was thought he could get away with one home invasion, and then he's going around beating him, and the guys is begging for his like he's like, you know what, you good, you all right, you're all right. Oh, by the way, did I tell you in my spare time I'm also Joe Exotic. And then here comes a freaking time.
I was just, oh man, we are on the same brain wave. I was just about to say, he's like, I'm not gonna hurt you, but my dogs, on the other hand, they don't listen too well. I love it. So night 2 opens with Liv Morgan defeating Natalya. I didn't even watch it. Who cares? Charlotte defeated Rhea Ripley for the NXT Championship. Called this one. Knew this one was going to happen. They're blurring the barriers between NXT as a developmental and as a third brand in actuality. So I don't know what this does for the brand's future or what it does for Charlotte or what have you. But if Finn Balor is not too big of a star to be in NXT, I think the same can be said about Charlotte. You know, as much as we want to pretend that Charlotte is her father, even though that upsets her for some reason, how dare you call me my father's daughter? Well, how dare you use this entire gimmick and then pretend like you're somehow being original? But if Finn Balor, who's a bigger star than Charlotte, is willing to go to NXT and NXT UK, well, then Charlotte can too, for all I care. I don't care. It's a whatever thing.
Yeah, I mean, at the very least, this gets her fresh opponents.
Yeah.
At the very least, like you said, we don't know exactly how this is gonna go. I saw somebody like, we all know this is ending with Bianca Belair taking the title off. I'm like, hold up, slow up, G. You mean to tell me they're gonna wait to put the title on Charlotte and have Bianca finally beat her when she couldn't even beat the chicks that Charlotte ran through? Come on now. Like, I love Bianca, but you got to have some consistent level of credibility, and if she wins it now, the credibility is all over the place. So, um, yeah, like I said, we don't know where this is going, but this at the very least gets us some new opponents. It may put a new, uh, no pun intended, flair on that particular character, just with the character dynamics in NXT. Like you said, Balor's not too big, and honestly, this has done his career a service by going back to NXT and allowing him to be that guy. I've not enjoyed him in this way since he first showed up in the WWE. So, I think I'm enjoying him even more now than I did then. So, this could be a way for them to put some type of juice in her who can very easily get stale and repetitive. I don't know what they're gonna do with Rhea. Also, I guess they're gonna do a rematch or something like that. But yeah, like you said, you called it, and I don't know why. Sometimes I just like going against the grain. Charlotte is their literal golden goose, so they want her to have every possible title. If they could get one of those universal titles on her, they would. But
We'll see what happens. It'll be interesting to see where they go from here. Here's something that I'm going to shock you with. Black and Black Lashley. Ah, I fucked that joke up. I was going to say Black and Black Lesnar. God damn it.
Fuck
Fuck that. Black and Lashley actually was my favorite match of WrestleMania.
Oh wow.
And I'm not being hyperbolical or gimmicky. For Lashley to dominate the whole match was great, and then for them to showcase just how good Black's spinning heel. I think you called this finish, by the way. To see how good he did the spinning heel kick, knocked out Lashley and won. That was great because it made Lashley look strong as hell, and it showed that Black is an instant one-hit wonder if he can get it. which gives him
Yeah.
instant credibility against anyone. This is how you build characters.
Yeah, this was actually what thoroughly executed. Like you said, we've not enjoyed watching Lashley since his days in Impact when he was actually a credible threat in every sense of the word. Um, but this was actually well done. I never mind seeing Lana. I don't think any red-blooded man does.
Or red-blooded
And
lesbian.
boom, yeah. Shout out to Mandy's former tag team partner. Um, but yeah, this was just thoroughly executed. Like you said, I did call. I just felt like that was just the logical thing to go with, and really the perfect setup for that Black Mass. Um, so yeah, like you said, I mean, I am surprised it was your favorite match, but not really. It's not like you had a lot else to pick from in terms of quality.
Mm-hmm.
So this was some good stuff. Yeah, man. Shout out to Alistair Black and Blurby.
Blurby. For me, it comes down to how they did something in this match that I didn't hear a lot in WrestleMania, and that's they tried to break it down at the start of the match. What does Black need to do to beat Lashley? And that was
Yeah.
such a very rare thing. Like you hear it all the time in boxing or MMA or other types of combat sports, but you don't hear a lot in pro wrestling anymore. One of the best things I thought about with Impact Wrestling was that they did the tail of the tape, keys to victory. That's the kind of stuff that I think adds, exactly what I'm looking for into pro wrestling. That element of athleticism and sport. And that's, something that they did a little bit with Black and Lashley. So I really enjoyed that. And they also kind of made it so that they're characters, but they're also still competitors. And that, made sense. And one of the things I hate about modern pro wrestling, beyond anything, is the desire to just go to the ringside floor for whatever reason. I'm not a fan of that. Like, oh, we're going to just do a suplex now on the floor, or we're going to DDT on the apron. If you can't tell a story in the ring, you can't tell a story. And going outside of the ring floor isn't going to help you. And I think that's the one spot I didn't like was when Lashley chucked Black over his head on the ringside floor. But outside of that, I liked it. It was good. I enjoyed it. Next up, we get Otis and Ziggler, with Sonya Deville coming out with Ziggler. My one question, I said this on Friday, what exactly was Sonya Deville's methodology here? It didn't make any sense. Why did she do it?
Apparently, it's one of them scenarios where I'm guessing she sees Mandy, but what do you call it? Undercutting herself by being with Otis.
Yeah, no, I mean, I understand that logic, but she outright says, you get what you want and I get what I want. But at no point did Sonya ever actually say what she wanted.
Yeah, it's kind of just implied because one of the segments had her saying like, Mandy Rose and Dolph Ziggler just seem like a natural thing. So it's like, where does the line of ass kissing stop? Like you more focused on getting her a date and laid than yourself. Like what are you? Like where is that? Like you kind of idolize her or something like that.
Right?
That
It didn't make any sense.
This is how I see you. This is how I see you, and I'm gonna make it happen. So it's weak, and all the strength of it. All the strength on this feud was of the Beast getting the beauty, and this probably would have got the biggest reaction of the night in front of that 80,000 crowd thing. Obviously nothing to do with Ziggler because he was always. I mean, he basically gets paid to take beatings anyway. Probably a ridiculous amount, but God bless Otis and Mandy. I didn't see the severity in which Mandy attacked. What you call it? I feel like that could have been a conversation, but they needed to get it to this point. So it is. The guy got the girl. He walked out of WrestleMania with her. Mandy always looks phenomenal. So, at the very least, Otis got the girl.
Everything you said is right, and I really like the moment where Otis and Mandy finally got together and all that, and she kisses him, and I'm just sitting there going, 6 feet, 6 feet, 6 feet.
Yay! Okay.
You can social distancing. But I think the biggest issue I had with this is one, the 80,000 people would have been great for this moment. They would have popped. But also, Sonya's whole motivation was terrible.
Yeah.
Like, if she had just said that I think Otis is so disgusting, and if you were to date him, I wouldn't be friends with you. At least that's a tangible reason. But it's literally not even. It's implied. It might be implied, but it's never really stated. Sonya Deville, worst villain of the year.
This is why I say I didn't fully trust the company 100% pull this off, because obviously a lot of the strength was on Otis. But in terms of a totality thing like this, this couldn't possibly be as well flushed out as that whole thing, the classic feud built up from Mickey James's crush with Trish. Like it has none of those, you know, elemental thing. Like we seen that woman fall into a level of insanity and then freaking transform that into obsession into a title. But this is, like I said, 100% on Otis. And it's weird too because I'm guessing we got a debut coming, because the way that the whole thing got revealed on SmackDown was all these conveniently placed cameras for us to see Sonya send the text from Mandy's phone. By the way, who leaves their phone on a date?
Right?
Getting ready to go to a date. That doesn't happen in 2020. That make no damn sense. And then so we see her sending the text messages and deleting others. Then we see the conversation, clear audio and video quality in a corridor between Sonya and Dolph making a deal. Like, first of all, the freaking convenience of these cameras is just overdone. And then, like I said, the way it was handled, like, because we've been getting these weird interruptions on the screen lately.
Mm-hmm.
So some outside force revealed the footage, because I don't think anybody that's involved in it did. So that's a weird dangling modifier that's out there with this whole thing too. So I don't know who's supposed to be debuting. I don't think it's Cross, because they showed his thing in NXT. So this may be somebody else. I don't know who it is, but yeah.
Well, there's a rumor that it might be Mustafa Ali returning, because like Ali had that blue kind of like cylinder thing with his ninja costume, and then you saw that same kind of blue cylinder thing when it came up on the screen. So there's some who think that it might be Ali. As far as what something you said that I think would have been interesting is, what if we had scrapped this match entirely and instead did Sonya Deville versus Mandy Rose, with the idea that Mandy Rose, prior to this whole thing happening, kind of sees what Sonya did as so disrespectful and so vile and so vicious, because she's truly into Otis, that it really flips her out. And Sonya's like, well, I wanted you to myself, and I couldn't do that if you were with Otis. And then Mandy's like, what kind of friend are you? And Sonya could have been like, I don't want to be a friend. And then like you could have built up the rivalry by the affection that Sonya wanted to give Mandy, but it was unrequited. And that affection turns into anger, and that anger turns into a fight. I think that would have been a fantastic way of doing that feud.
Well, first off, that's a great idea, but barring the, I guess, poor choice in language, I'm about to say, they kind of blew their last load with the whole Liv Morgan thing.
Yeah, they did. They already had their one shot pumped there with Liv Morgan, which went nowhere. Thanks for that one, Paul Heyman, you moron. Like, well, is Liv Morgan actually in love with Lana, or was that just some kind of big freak out? Like, literally, it led nowhere. It did nothing. It had no follow-up. What a terrible fucking series of events.
And it would actually make more sense here, because we know that Sonya in real life, is legitimately lesbian.
She likes the lady lips, if you will.
Exactly. Both sets. But yeah, it would have made more sense. And like I said, that just would have strengthened it from both sides, and then you culminated. Obviously, it wouldn't have had the crowd, but you could have did something far better. But again, like I said, I couldn't fully trust them to bring this home 100%, and they didn't. But again, most of the audience is riding on Otis, so we'll see how long this lasts. They can still do this thing where they, can't help but turn Mandy on the poor guy either. So.
God, I hope not. just don't be those guys. As far as the rest of the card goes, I wasn't a fan of Edge and Orton either. I know that's kind of like, ooh, how dare you? but it was long.
Plotting.
They did the same bits over and over and over and over again, and like every time Edge took an RKO, I cringed. Again, it's one of those things where I'm not going to not be. I'm probably never going to enjoy an Edge match again because I'm just going to cringe every time he takes a bump.
Yeah, it's not like the thing that took him out is an Achilles and you're worried every time he takes a step. It's the neck. It's such a delicate thing, you know. Like you said, like if something comes up and he gets into it with Lesnar, I'ma just pretend like that's not even happening because I don't even want to see him take one of Lesnar's Germans.
New tag
But
team.
yeah, I mean,
Edge and Undertaker. Edge comes out as a Viking warlord. Taker comes out as ABA, and they just go on a tear through the tag team division in 2.5-minute squash matches for 2 years. Boom, book it.
and Chad's sole reason for this Metallica fest.
I mean, it's not a bad idea. Although, maybe you can bring Alter Bridge and Metallica together to do a great kind of duality between Metalingus and this new Metallica song Taker's rocking. I think that'd be fantastic. Yeah. Oh, what an intro. Oh, God. The goosebumps. The metal.
Yeah, it's funny because I think Steph tweeted out something because, of course, that I guess Triple H had something to do with it, which I would imagine he did. I mean, you know, we know Triple H is a Motorhead guy, a Motorhead head, so I'm pretty sure him and Taker very much akin in terms of their love for the heavy metal in that regard. But yeah, with this, I like Edge, loves comeback. I'm looking forward to seeing what he's gonna do over these next few years. But this just was it was underwhelming. Like you said, it was long, it was plotting, it was exceptionally repetitive, and the best things about it was the beginning part, you know, the Orton thing, which made a lot of sense. I like the fact that he kind of just wanted to quickly put him out of his misery with the just stay down situation. But you really watch this match for like the last 5 minutes where they doing battling out on the truck and whatnot, and you see the expressions from Edge and whatnot, and the whole spear and the concerto. That's what this match really revolves around. Everything else is kind of like I feel like that Gargano Ciampa tearing up the NXT Performance Center like some weeks ago was better than this, and I don't even like them two like that. So, but I'm glad he left under his own power and they didn't do anything that would have put him in danger in terms of his neck. So that might have been a sleeper bonus for this, in terms of being held back and what they could do. So, yeah, but it definitely, of the specialty matches, this is probably my least favorite of the weekend.
Yeah, I agree. The one kind of moment that I thought was just super big dumb, but also amazing, was when they were in the little conference room and Edge reached up and grabbed this metal grate that's dangling from the ceiling and hoists himself up. And I'm just sitting there going, why would they have a metal grate like that right above the table for no reason?
Again, we're on the same wavelength. I was thinking to myself when I saw it, I'm like, did they add that last minute for this? Because that's random as hell, but convenient for this.
Either they added it last minute, or it's always been there, and in which case I have so many more questions. We then got the Street Profits defeating Angel Garza and Austin Theory. I think in terms of matches, this is the most deflating on all the matches, on all the cards. It wasn't bad. It was fine. But it also really didn't need to happen. You know, they're not feuding with Austin Theory or Angel Garza. Not really. And even if they've been, when did Street Profits and Andrade start to have issues? Did they? Or is that just something they shoehorned in together for WrestleMania? I don't even know.
Yeah, they just threw that in. I mean, Selena's, like I said, she sounded like almost the hit agent to the stars in terms of they kind of just been cycling back and forth between. They brought on Austin Theory last minute because I'm guessing is injured. Andrade.
Yeah, Andrade fucked up his ribs.
Yeah, so Yeah, but this was kind of last minute, and we know the tag team vision across the company from each set of champions is flimsy anyway because the divisions just aren't there. So, this was a last minute thing, but it's obviously the Street Profits bring a lot of personality when they allow them to do it their way. Um, and yeah, this was just a kind of random thing, but it was cool to see that they allowed them to keep the titles one because we already know they put a time on the minority talent with those championships. But it was cool to see Bianca come in there. But I don't know where that's going. But it was a cool little moment. She's getting some kind of shine. So
Yeah, that I think is one of the more, I don't know, not positive or optimistic, but that's one of the more noteworthy moments from the show is that Bianca, I guess, essentially made her main roster debut. There's so much crossover that you don't really know anymore, and it kind of takes away some of the luster of some of these instances. So I think they need to, stop fucking around and actually make good content. Bailey won a Fatal 5-Way. It was an elimination. I don't know who. I didn't care. At the end, Sasha gave Bailey the belt, and they're like, I'm going to turn on you eventually. And Bailey's like, well, thanks for helping me today. And Sasha's like, I didn't care.
Yep, that's it.
We then got Fiend versus John Cena. And here's a unilateral statement that will kind of break down how I feel about the Firefly Funhouse match and the Boneyard match. A lot of great ideas done in the wrong way. Bring back American Badass Undertaker was a great idea. Doing it in this hammy-fisted, no whatever it is going on, Boneyard match, bad. At least in my opinion. With this, John Cena going full heel finally, and then, the SmackDown fist, we all wanted that, but then we get it in a throwaway moment. Okay. So, the two things that really stood out to me was, of course, the fist. That was cool. Bringing back the SmackDown fist was cool. But also the whole, John Cena is now Hulk Hogan. It's the NWO. The sad thing is if you had actually done that in like 2010, have John Cena reform the NWO with him at the forefront, holy balls, that would have been huge. Especially with Hogan now in TNA. But, why do something that's actually good, that can stimulate interest in the product and can shake things up? No, we got to do the same old, same old. John Cena disappeared at the end and then he lost? I don't know. This is like so dumb. If Bray Wyatt's this powerful, why doesn't he just do this every single match instead of lose? Fucking always. So, this was fucking stupid.
He discovered this technique after his spear from Goldberg.
He got hit so hard he finally had a clue. One of them finally wiggled loose and it dropped into his brain.
This was another thing that I could have, because going back to what you said, like the Broken Universe was something that grew on me. And shout out to Impact, conveniently posting a lot of this stuff at some interesting times on Twitter and whatnot.
Oh yeah.
Like they reposted like when Matt Hardy first debuted that Broken thing when he was looking like a dollar store Cruella DeVille. And then obviously we know what it evolved to, and I didn't know how much I actually missed all that stuff until I saw it in AEW when it was actually properly executed, not under the freaking WWE banner. But yeah, I appreciated the fact that, like, I think the one thing I appreciated about this the most was like they literally forced themselves finally in a feud to play on every bit of every piece of history between the two characters involved.
Mm-hmm.
Like they cycled back through everything. It was cool to see Cena cycle back through his stuff, even though he kind of, am I the only one that think he looks weird now? And
yeah,
that's just for the hair. Like,
so the best way I can describe it is super mean. But basically, he and Bailey have the same face. And I call it the, the hound face, where you get the droopy cheeks. It's not great. Cena looks super old. So does Bailey. They both look super old.
And because we've seen him at a certain size consistently over so many years, him smaller, still lean as hell, but smaller, like his neck, and his head, it's a weird thing going down to his body, which is kind of stocky, but not as stocky. It's weird, and on top of the hair, it's just a weird type of thing. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I appreciated the certain elements. Like, you gotta love that Vince puppet. Um, Freaking the Buzzard Macho Man, I thought was interesting. Um, like I said, I know this probably won't click for you because we had to cycle back through all the aspects of suck of Wyatt.
Yeah. Didn't get Husky
Like
Harris
all,
though.
huh? Yeah.
Could use some Husky.
Yeah. But yeah, it was cool. But I mean, to me, the Boneyard match is far superior just for my entertainment value overall. This was cool from a lot of converged nonsensical elements. And then of course it just ended because what the freak is a fire funhouse match. And I doubt we'll be seeing a lot of these, although at this point they probably could use it whenever they don't fully flesh out a good feud. They seldom do, but yeah, this was probably something you kind of go back and watch and try to piece it together with your own logic as opposed to trying to 100% give over to theirs. But at least I guess he got a win finally. Yeah.
I have nothing good to say about this.
Sad,
Man
like I
event.
should have just showed JoJo from the back for 20 minutes.
I mean, basically. So Drew McIntyre and Brock Lesnar. Drew wins 4 minutes. I don't know. Same shit, different day, man.
Same shit, different day, different guy. This would have guessed been another cool moment in front of that 80,000, but it is what it is. I know you're not the biggest Drew guy. Not even when he was the leader of the Rising. No. But
better than I'm Micah.
Talk about started from the bottom. Now you're there in New Japan. But yeah, this was, I don't know what people was expecting from this. This was I don't even know what would have put this over Goldberg and Braun. I mean, I would just because I like Brock and Drew more, but that's not saying much. So like you said, 4 minutes, however many seconds. They got a new champion. They got a young champion. Let's see what they do with it, how long they allow themselves to run out of, with this new ball that they're trying out in Drew. Like what's the time from how long they gonna take them to put it back on Brock? Because that's another thing this company too. So yeah, it happened. But like you, it's funny because the final show on the first night was the peak for me, and then tonight is like matches like you said, Blurby and Alistair and some other stuff.
I like that Blurby sticking around. I'm Blurby. Little creepy little puppet. So, overall, WrestleMania existed. That's about all I can say about it. That isn't a total insult. So yeah. That's it. That's all I got. I got no other comments to make. Probably shouldn't have happened, but it did, and here we are. Marcus, any final thoughts?
I appreciate Taker introducing me to a new Metallica song for me to bump.
You?
Yep.
I'm actually gonna listen to it as soon as the show's over.
Yeah, I've listened to it all day. Great stuff. But yeah, I'm glad everybody, like you said, we've been light on them because it was an impossible situation. More than likely should have just been canceled, but it's done. It's in the can. It was in the can for, but what, a couple weeks before we saw it?
Like a week or two, 10 days maybe tops.
Yeah. So
I think
kudos to the task.
I'm sorry, go on.
Yeah. No, go ahead. They gonna have like maybe a few shows after this.
Yeah, I think they're gonna have like a few like 2 Raws and SmackDowns in the can as well. That's all I meant to say.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, but yeah, kudos to the talent that showed up and did what they did. Like we said, at the very least, like you said, everybody, showed up and acted like it was 80,000 people there. So, God bless them. I'm pretty sure a lot of these guys have probably come from gymnasiums of 20 people at most anyway. And a lot of their backstories. So, this was maybe getting back to basics in a lot of ways, but doesn't feel like nobody got majorly injured or anything or came out of this sick from exposure or whatnot. So that we know of right now. So, just kudos to them, man. They did what they could during this time to take people's minds off everything that's going on. Like you said, it wasn't WrestleMania that we used to. Kind of was just Mania name only, but it happened, and you can appreciate it from just an effort perspective. So.
Mm-hmm. So, with all that being said, we're going to be off Tuesday because, I mean, what else do we have to talk about? Zach and I will be back on Wednesday because I do believe there is still another episode of Impact Wrestling, at the very least one, so we'll talk about that on Wednesday. Thursday, you and I are back, Marcus, and Zach, to talk more of
Yes,
The Boys.
The boy.
The Boys. We'll also talk about any new comic news happening in between now and then on Thursday. Friday, we should have an idea what we're doing for the Ohio Guys podcast. Zach said he'll let me know. Not Zach. Swisher said he'd let me know, so we'll do that. And Saturday, I don't know what we're doing yet for GameCorp, but we will have one. So, that's the schedule. Stay tuned. Check us out. We will be there. Thanks for tuning in. We can be found on twitch.tv/Wrestling Underground. We're on youtube.com/The Wrestling Underground. We're on Twitter at NERDCORP. On Instagram at Real Nerd Corp. Did I say NERDCORP? Yeah, I did. We're on the website at realnerdcorp.com, REALNERDCORP.com. We're also on Podbean at realnerdcorp.podbean.com, or you can download the Podbean app to your mobile and tablet devices and search for Real Nerd Corp today so you can start listening to the shows on the go. Kaloo Kalay. Marcus, you can be found on Twitter at ParadoxKid, ParadoxKid.
That's the kid.
You can also find him on his other podcast, The True Penny Show, at True Penny Show on Twitter, TruePennyShow. I think I spelled that right. I'm looking at the TV, and the guy who played Hawkman in the Smallville series is on an episode. Apparently, he was a star on the series Stargate, whatever it's called, SG-1, and I'm blown away. He's in a scene with Fred Willard, so I'm kind of like, what's happening right now? So I'm just kind of going off of muscle memory with my spelling. So I hope to God I'm spelling all these things right. I'm on Twitter at see? See what happens when you don't pay attention? I'm on Twitter at Chad Nerdcorp, ChadNerdCorp, and on the Instagram at Chad's Photo Hut, ChadSphotohut. Marcus, any final thoughts? Anything else you want to say?
Nope, all good here.
All right, then we are done for the night. We will see you on Thursday with me and Marcus for another edition of ComicCorp over at twitch.tv/Comic and GameCorp, ComicGameCorp. That's right. You can find us on there. It's Thursday, 9 p.m. Me and Marcus talking comics and comic-related material with our special guest, Zachary Tyler Pew Pew Duncan. So with all that being said, we're done. Have a nice night. Remember to social distance. Keep yourself safe. Eat some good food. Get some stretching and some exercises in when you can, and just kind of remember, like we're all in this together. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for checking us out. And remember, as always, to watch more wrestling. Marcus, take us home.
Stay inside me.